G'day folks, and welcome to Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway, and we're in February here at the moment, only just in February, and it's quite a long time since we've had an update on the railway, and as such there is nothing really to report on the railway itself. No further progress has been made with scenery or anything probably since the last time you saw it. There have been a number of things that have sort of taken up my time, and the railway had to sort of take a back seat for a while. So anyway, but I haven't been totally idle. I've been mucking around with some locomotives as well, and we might have a look at what I've been doing. This class 33 here is, or was, a restoration project. I managed to get two of these Lima models for $25 each off eBay, and I didn't expect too much from them. This is some time ago. However, when they turned up, they actually ran, so that was a bonus. And however, they did need servicing, and so this is the first one to receive a bit of treatment. And what happened with this one was that the plastic chassis had a split in it, so that was super glued together. The motor was completely stripped down and serviced and all that sort of thing, cleaned, lubed, all that sort of thing, brushes cleaned. Both the front and the rear buffer beams were missing, so these buffer beams have been scavenged off an old mainline diesel actually, and just put in there as a replacement. I think they look okay. There's one on the other end as well, and that's pretty much as far as it's gone, apart from a bit of painting of the springs in the bogies, etc., and the old white and red dots here and there. You've probably noticed on the front that there's some unusual looking couplings there, so we'll go into that in a little while. So yeah, this restoration went hand in hand with a bit more development on couplings as well. And so what I've found is that, you know, with a good clean and everything, and service and a bit of lubrication, we've got it on the track there now. I'll just move the camera so you can see it running a bit better. Okay, it's quite good at low speed now, and can sort of move quietly along. And you know, this model, folks, is about 30 years old probably. So that's not too bad for a locomotive of this age. And when it does run at proper speed, it pulls nice and smooth and progressively, so it's a good locomotive to have in my locomotive fleet. I then moved on to another Lima locomotive I've had for some time. This is a Lima Prairie, and this one was actually running okay. However, it was an instant starter with the original pancake motor in it, so it was either stationary or moving. And so it was a bit difficult for shunting, and so I decided to have a bit of a serious look at this one and see what could be done with it. And so in the end, I've removed the pancake motor and replaced it with a CD motor, which was surprisingly easy actually. I'd sort of got in a stock of CD motors some time ago just for this purpose, and also some 8-tooth pinions, all probably from China I think, but everything's very, very cheap. And so the CD motor was fitted into the pancake housing, firstly simply by locating it centrally in the bearings and everything, and I'd put some drops of super glue on it to make sure I could hold it in the same place. So I've just put some super glue on, put it straight into the housing, lined it up as good as I could centrally, and then once I was happy with the position, I then put some glue from a hot glue gun around the motor casing and in between the pancake casing, so it's got this hard sealed sort of glue in there to hold it in place. and that works really well. It's as free as anything. Even the wheels turn when you just push the loco by hand. You know, that you couldn't do that before. I've got very little pressure on this thing, and it just moves freely when it wants to. The other thing with this thing is it had pickups only on the front and the rear drivers, and they were badly worn, and I don't think they were functioning correctly, so I made some pickups to go underneath it, and so this is a bit of circuit board here. There are phosphor bronze wires going up to these wheels and to these wheels, and you can't really see those, but I added an extra set for the center wheels here, so you can see that little ring there. That's phosphor bronze, and there's another one on that side. So that's all to help with the locomotive getting around the place. So yeah, so that's all quite effective. And also I've started playing with this one as well, with a different type of coupling system. You'll notice that it's got the tension lock D's on the front. They're small Bachmann tension locks, but I've also got a magnetic system here. So we can probably I'll show you this one running first, and then we'll go into the couplings. Yeah, so if we just give it a slight bit of power, there's also diodes in this one to drop the voltage down a bit. So and it's also very quiet now. Couldn't do that before, folks. Well, you're probably sick to death of my adventures in couplings and how I sort of invent the next best thing, and you know, on and on it goes. And I must say that the systems that I've developed, although they don't vary much in the way they work, over the last few years, they've all worked. And so I've got to the point now where, especially now that I've got Bamford up here and operational, I've got to the point where I thought, well, I can't really couple up the existing system I had as well if I've got to reach over the baseboard. So I need to sort of think about this and make it easier to use. And so I had to sort of think about how the whole system worked. I mean, I've had it working in the past where a 3-link chain swings up and connects to a magnet, which is also part of a hook, and that system can pull anything, and it also uncouples easily, and it couples reasonably well on straight track. On curved track it's a little bit harder, but you know, overall it's a good system, looks good, pulls good, so that's probably okay if yeah, you can get good access, I suppose, to the wagons. The thing I was thinking of is, now what happens if a wagon goes into a goods shed? You can push it in, but how do you couple up again? So that was an issue. Also, as I mentioned, with reaching over, it was difficult to couple. You know, you get it most of the time, but sometimes it wouldn't work. And I'm also thinking now, with children involved running the railway, it's got to be pretty easy to use. And so I've looked at my system in a different way, and I suppose now it's similar, I suppose, to a hunt system where the magnets are attached to the coupling and they attract to each other and connect up that way. So I suppose basically I've got a variation on a hunt coupling. It's not as refined as a hunt coupling, however it's very, very cheap to make. So I'll give you an idea of how it works. Right, so this is a standard wagon, and if we can get that around so you can see it, what I've got here is a linkage, and I've got a magnet on the end, and it's the same at both ends. And when I originally started putting these together, I thought, what happens if I have north at one end and south at the other end, I'm sort of always locked into having the orientation of the wagons the same way. You couldn't sort of do that and connect it to its neighbour there, because it would repel. The magnets would repel. You'd have south to south or north to north. I thought, well, that's no good. So what I came up with instead was making, let's call them A and B wagons, or headlight and taillight wagons, where this wagon has the same polarity at each end, and so do the other wagons. So this, we'll call this north and that's south. When you put them together, they connect like that. However, if you take this wagon off and turn it around, they connect just like that. So then I'm locked into a different system where I've got to make sure that I have AB, AB, AB in the way my wagons form a train, which, you know, is no real big deal. But then you've got to think about brake vans as well. So with a brake van, I was sort of thinking let's move those out of the way. With a brake van, I've decided to go one polarity, say north at the front and south at the back, because if this brake van is pulled up into a branch line terminus like it is here, when the loco comes and runs around, if the loco is set up the same way with A at the front, B at the back, it can connect onto there, or if it runs around, it can connect onto there. So brake vans are set up the same as locos. Locos will be A at the front, B at the back. And the way I've set it up is with a colour coding system so that I know what's what. And if you look at the axle boxes on this brake van, I've got white at the front. Let's think of a car. Headlights, red, tail lights. Front, back. It works that way. So yeah, I think that's necessary, and the locos are set up the same way. You'll notice the class 33 I had out earlier. If I just pull back a bit, I've got a white dot there, and on the rear axle I've got a red dot. So this is the motor bogie here. So that's set up the same way. This particular diesel here is set up with a ring on here for the magnetic coupling. There's a ring here which allows the coupling to slide across a wide angle there, and that's to deal primarily with wagons that have a bogie on them. It's if you just had four-wheel wagons all the time, you could pretty much centre that in that spot there. That's one system I've come up with. I might even change that on this loco. And down here we've put a brass U-shaped piece to accommodate tension locks. So this loco can pull magnetic system wagons, or it can pull coaching stock with tension locks on it. I want to leave my coaching stock with tension locks. The Prairie's set up the same way, although it doesn't have the ring on the front. If we just move across to the Prairie, what I've done here is used a, let's put that in position there like that. The T-pieces that I use on my wagons don't allow as much movement as this system. If I put a bit of an arc in the T here, I get a bigger range of movement. I might even transfer this system over to the Class 33. I mean, the whole thing is still a bit of a work in progress, but I'm very happy with the way it's going, and it's the ease of use that makes it so good. You have to sort of work out your the way your trains are sort of set up, and what colours at the front of the train, and how does that relate to the loco it's pulling, and all that sort of thing. But that's no big deal to actually work that out. So yeah, keeps your brain working. Yeah, so to use this system really well. I think what it also needs is shunters. I'm going to have shunters stationed at each station to deal with all sorts of wagon variations. And the shunters, instead of having a magnet on each end, if I bring this one over, this little, what used to be Smoky Joe, the coupling on this one, that's actually just a screw head that's been cut down. So it's not a magnet, but it's attracted to a magnet. So therefore, it's attracted to any of the wagons, whatever way they're set up. So there's a coupling like that front and rear. So this can shunt anything. The trouble with you might think, well, why not just put that system on all the locos? It doesn't have enough strength really to deal with, say, a fast takeoff or something with a loco, or maybe pulling a lot of wagons up a hill. It just won't do it. It could pull about 10 wagons, which is going to be roughly the length of most of my trains, but it only just copes with that. So for climbing gradients, I think I'd rather stick to the magnets as on these locos here. And if there's a lot of shunting required, which there will be, we'll use the shunting locos in the various locations. The other thing I've developed to go hand in hand with this system is a shunter's pole, and this is a pretty strange looking shunter's pole. It's similar in design to a garden fork for removing weeds, but the cutout here goes over the top of the coupling. The bowed piece of plastic here helps to keep the coupling separated while the loco pulls away. Otherwise, if you can break the coupling, but it'll just recouple again because the magnetic force is so strong. And I can show you how this works as well. The coupling works every time, unless a magnet gets put out of position or something for some reason. But yeah, it works every time. No problem at all. So this is where it's really good. And this is where you can achieve consistency right through your rolling stock. I mean, these wagons here, that's an old mainline, and the brake van is an old Hornby. However, I can insert into there a new wagon, so we'll do that. We'll get a couple. Actually, this one is a very old Hornby. So that van was white, so this is red. Now this is Oxford, this one. This is an Oxford model, so that's white, connects to the red, and connects to the, we've got the magnet up in the air because I was handling it. That's better. Now we'll push that back together, yeah. So you can see they're all coupling roughly around the same height, and so all of a sudden you've got those variations in tension lock through the ages have disappeared, and the train is consistent. So you know, they all work pretty much the same. You just put your uncoupling pole in there and away it goes. Now these wagons, you will notice, still have a tension lock coupling on them. So if we bring down the Prairie to connect to them, we'll see how we go. So that's the dual system at work. And as I said, I'm really intending to use tension locks really just for coaching stock. I've got a lot of wagons to convert over to magnetic coupling. I mean, I'm not really shunting around coaching stock anything like I would be doing wagons. So, but still, in my hidden fiddle yard, the sliding yard, I think tension locks are going to work better in there for uncoupling because I can't reach in there all the time, so I need something automatic to work in there. So my sliding yard will occupy, or all my coaching stock will be put into the sliding yard. So we've got a train made up here, folks, to go into the dispatch siding, and so what we'll do is we'll bring the shunter up to connect onto this train and then take it over there. So we'll just zoom in a bit and bring the shunter up to the train. And take it away. And we'll reposition the camera. We'll just back the train into the siding. Now we'll uncouple the train and pull the locomotive away. Now we'll bring that locomotive into the sidings and just isolate it. And we're right to go. Well folks, that's where it's at the moment, and I'm still developing it. I've just had a couple of ideas today and last night, and I've tried them out. It's not 100%. I think I'll probably go with it as it is, and when I've got the final sort of formula, if you like, I'll give a detailed tutorial on how to put it together. It's really quite simple. Yeah, anyway, I'll see you next time. Cheers, Gorma.